You could have written a book and said, I think that we did a great job ending slavery, which we did. But I don't know if this is just because it helps you become a bestseller, but you add this line, the tyranny of imaginary guilt. You're a Christian theologian, and you're saying we shouldn't feel guilty at all about 3 million Africans being taken out of their homes and moved to across the Atlantic? The guilt is imaginary? Why can't we have guilt and also believe everything you just said?
First of all, we can only feel guilt for something we did.
We did. We did take 3 million people out of Africa.
You and I didn't. No, you and I didn't. I can lament what some of our ancestors did. I can't feel guilty for it.
So that means you take... Hold on. So you're telling me with a straight face, you don't take pride in Britain, in us defeating the Nazis in World War II? You've never taken pride in that?
I take pride in it. I admire the fact of what
How can you take pride in it? It's not us.
Well, no, of course. I can't claim the credit for having done that because I didn't. My parents did. I didn't.
We as British people take pride.
Only indirectly.
So why can't we take guilt indirectly?
In terms of guilt, because you cannot be guilty for something you didn't do. You can be responsible for the effects. You can't be guilty for it.
But you can take pride in something you didn't do. But you can take pride in something you didn't do.
Metaphorically. So I prefer to use the word admiration now.
Don't you understand that the people who do this thing, who practice racism, are bereft? There is something distorted about the psyche. It's a huge waste, and it's a corruption and a distortion. But when you take it away, I take your race away, and there you are, all strung out, and all you got is your little self. And what is that? What are you without racism? Are you any good? Are you still strong? You still smart? You still like yourself? I mean, these are the questions. It's, if you can only be tall because somebody's on their knees, then you have a serious problem. And my feeling is white people have a very, very serious problem. And they should start thinking about what they can do about it.
What do you say to that?
I said what I said.
Okay.
If Mr. Black and Mr. White live next door to each other, they have the same job, the same income, the same car, the same furniture.
Yeah.
They both walk out of the house in the morning. Good morning, Mr. Black. Good morning, Mr. White.
Yeah.
But Mr. White is still looking, but you've got something that I don't have.
You're saying he's saying that
He's
subconsciously.
saying, right.
Now, wait a minute. All right, we'll give you a chance in just a moment.
Not true. In reality, white skin is a genetic recessive status, not as said by Francis Welsing. Even though the white population says that people of color are minorities, you're genetically inferior because you are non-white. That it is the white population that is the minority, the minority on the planet.
That's the reality you're saying.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
That in spite of the fact that black people, non-white people have heard over and over again.
Meaning that if you and I were to have a baby, the baby would have color, and you make the contribution and I don't.
That white
So
plus
what,
colored, well, wait a minute. It's not Francis Welsing that is concerned about the disappearance of white. There have been multiple articles in the newspaper talking about the decline of Western populations.
Here, incidentally, this was the percentage of the West's population in 1900, the turn of this century, about 30%. This is where we'll be, less than 10% in the year 2075. Here's where we are about today, 15. So we're not.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How are you doing? I'm hoping that you're doing great from whatever you watch me from. I'm your host and presenter, Agent Stories. Now, let's just talk about a fact that I feel like we need to talk about. For the longest time, we have seen people come out and talking about this, but people don't understand that this is one of those biggest part of the problem that the United States is going through. You understand the devastating effects that slavery has left to the lives of Black Americans. When we look at scholars that have talked about post-traumatic slave syndrome, they have highlighted how significantly the slavery and its effects are still affecting Black people. Yet we have theologians, we have scholars who will come out and tell you that slavery is something which ended a long time ago and black people should learn on how to move on. Well, on the logical sense, this might be something that makes sense. But deep down, if you're on the ground and if you're a black person, you will understand that still the devastating effects of racism is still up to date and it's affecting everyone. And remember, this is just a way of people trying to deflect from being responsible for the causes, because we have some people that are still benefiting from the systems that were placed, the systems that milked the labor of black people to make the United States what it is. People don't understand the magnitude of the stress levels that those people had to go. And you understand that stress is an emotional, not activity, it's an emotional phenomena that can be passed from one place to another or from one body to another body. Same with trauma, can be passed from one generation to another. That's why you see, if a family member has a high blood pressure, you realize that it has something to do with those people who were there before. Trust me, this has been scientifically proven. We have things that are being passed down, but we are trying to look at the magnitude of slavery, even when we are not trying to look at the emotional appeal of all these things and how it went. But brothers and sisters, I want you to watch this video because we have some white theologians or white scholars that think that black people should stop complaining about slavery and just mind their business and do and work just like anybody else. But I have a problem with that. I'm gonna let you watch the video and then I'll be back. I'll be sharing my thoughts in regards to this. So brothers and sisters, stay tuned as you watch the video. I'm gonna be back.
Having babies.
So whites are not having babies, and there is the concern about white genetic annihilation. In other words, I look at, this is Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday holiday, and people will say, well, here's a man who talked about love. Yeah. Why was he killed? And I say that the deeper logic is, what if all black and white people and non-white people and white people love? What would happen to white people? White would disappear. You see, just mix all of the people on the planet up together.
In other words, if race didn't matter, or if color didn't matter, it follows with the jet plane.
No, I'm not saying if it didn't matter. I'm saying that indeed, if there was a mingling, if we mixed all of the people presently on the planet, stirred them up,
that the white freckle-faced people would be gone.
Genetic recessive status would disappear because we have the greatest genetic potential to cause white genetic annihilation.
Because you're the blackest.
Because we, right.
The most color.
Right. We have this ability to produce melanin pigment. We have more of it than anybody else. And so the most pressure is on black people.
The Donald Trump presidency, we will finally evict all of these illegal aliens that are coming here and stealing jobs from Americans. If you break into my house, should I just accept you because you washed my dishes and made my beds? I say no. I say you need to go back and come back in the right way.
So is that what the Indians should have told white Americans? The original illegal alien or European white folk in America?
Agreed.
And so should the Indians stand up today and say deport all white folks back to Europe?
Well, should we learn something from their mistake? Because we are here now.
Or should you learn something from their compassion to give other people an opportunity like was given to you and your ancestors? Learn from their compassion. That's what you should learn from.
I say learn from their mistakes.
Letting in the white man was the worst mistake that the Indians ever could have made. I agree with you. That was one of the greatest mistakes. Even right there in South Africa, they got a similar problem.
You probably wonder, why do white people pay so much attention to black people if they don't like them? I don't pay attention to things I don't like.
What's the answer?
The liar knows what lie he told. You see what I'm saying? So even if I made it deceitful and I made you think that the answer is over here, but the answer is really over here, I'm still going to be looking over here. Me, the one that tricked, because I know this is the right answer. Black people have lost their identity, but our oppressors have not lost our identity.
And the other is by journalist, professor, and activist Dr. Mark Lamont Hill. That's why these writers kept writing written by himself, written by herself, Phyllis Wheatley, Frederick Douglass, because they thought Negroes couldn't read and write. They thought Negroes didn't have the capacity to read and write, and yet they made all the laws to stop us from learning how to do what? Read and write. If we can't read and write, what you trying so hard to stop us for? And the answer is because America has always known what you are. America has always known who you are. America has understood what you're capable of, and they will make you think you ain't nothing at the same time that they exploit your gifts. They'll tell you you lazy and make you a slave. They'll tell you you dirty and have you clean their house. They'll tell you you uncivilized, and we raise their children. They know who you are. But it's time that you listen to who you are, that you understand who you are.
Bro, like we were talking about earlier, the projecting. White people didn't even consider us human, 3/5 human. That was never our problem. Our main problem is why we considered them human in the first place. If anybody 3/5, look at that behavior. Who eat people? Who would feed a baby to an alligator? Who would do that? Who would exterminate buffalo just so people wouldn't have nothing to eat, wouldn't have a source of food, just to punish people? Who would give people disease-ridden blankets? Who would do this? Who would create black codes? If you walking along the train line, you going to prison. Vagrancy laws. Same thing they doing now. Our issue isn't our humanity. Our issue is trying to prove our humanity to people who don't behave in a humane way.
See, what Donald Duck doesn't realize is he's not just damaging America's politics, he's actually damaging white America's reputation around the world, because for centuries, black folks have been out here trying to clean up that image. We've been the bridge, right? The reason why people in Africa and the Caribbean and South America and even Europe still gave America a chance, because they saw us. They saw our soul, they saw our music, they saw our forgiveness and our strength. And they said, if those people can still love America after everything it's done to them, maybe America isn't all that bad. Black people humanized this country, right? We softened how the world saw white people through our grace, through our creativity and our endurance. We made America look civilized. We made it look like progress was possible. But then Trump came along and he ripped that mask off, right? He's exposing the same hate and the greed and the cruelty that we've been warning about for generations. Now the world sees it, live and unfiltered, the arrogance, the racism, the authoritarianism, all of it on full display. While black people were out here trying to build bridges, Trump's been out here burning them down. While we were trying to heal the image of white America, he's been proving every stereotype right. That power corrupts, that whiteness unchecked turns violent, that America's greatness was built on domination, not democracy. So now the world ain't just looking at us like the victims anymore. They're looking at y'all like the threat. And that's the irony in all of this. For centuries, we've carried the burden of proving America had humanity. Now, Trump's making the world question if it ever did.
You're ready with me, but here are some reasons on why I think everyone should support Trump and he's going to make America great again. Okay, so the first reason is, and like because of that, the second reason is, the third reason is, with all that being said, let's just vote Trump in the 2028 election because he's going to make America great again. If you made it to the end of this video, comment the butterfly emoji. That's all, please get ready with me. Bye.
You know, I love Donald Trump. You know why? Because America deserves Donald Trump. Yeah, because of all the crap she's done. She deserves a guy like Donald, you know? Daffy Donald Trump. Now, to my MAGA supporters who are my white brothers and sisters, hey, come November 1st, SNAP benefits are over. You know what that means? That means that since more of you guys are on welfare and food stamps and things of that nature, you guys are going to suffer. And then the whole economy is going to just, who knows? But guess what? We black folk, we used to it. Used to it. We were cool during the Depression. We'll be cool now. We've lived here through all the crap of America. So, hey, You ought to be our friend. And we can show you a thing or two about surviving in America. Go Trump. America deserves him. Peace out.
What do you say to that?
I said what I said.
Okay.
That's the energy that we need. That is the energy that I love to see. Janelle Bynum has released a statement because, of course, ICE is out here pew-pewing people again because they don't know how to operate and function because of state-sponsored terrorism that we're living in right now. Now, Congresswoman Bynum said, "This isn't law enforcement, it's state-sponsored terrorism. Stop effing with us." This is the second pew-pewing this week by agents following the orders of a wannabe dictator who is trying to take over cities and rule by instilling terror in the hearts of American people. When the president deployed his guardsmen to our city earlier this year, we told him their presence was unwelcome and unhelpful. Today, we saw just how dangerous this is. We need these goons gone. Get to stepping. And of course, CNN, they had to get an interview with her.
Literally, stop fucking with us was your words. These are goons. And they'll say that is raising the temperature and actually puts some of this law enforcement officers in greater danger.
And baby, she said what she said.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you're doing great from wherever you're watching me from. Yeah, it kind of saddens me that we have people that think that black people should not complain about slavery. And I really find it so diabolical that we have these people that still believes that a black person talking about the devastating effects that racism brought into their lives is really diabolical, brothers and sisters, right? So I want to talk about something because the claim by these theologians doesn't make a damn sense to me. Understand that white people today should not feel guilty over slavery. And this is what they are told, and these are claims by these theologians, and they say that white people today should not feel guilty over slavery because they did not personally participate in it, which rests on a very narrow definition of responsibility. Understand that in books like the Tyranny of Imaginary Guilt, the argument is that the moral blame can only apply to direct actors, not descendants. From this perspective, slavery is framed as closed chapter of history, tragic but finished, right? And therefore irrelevant to the moral obligation of people living today. The theologian's goal is to separate personal guilt from historical wrongdoing, arguing that to conflate the two is unjust and psychologically harmful. But brothers and sisters, if it's psychologically harmful to white people, what do you think about the black people? That all this trauma has been passed down to them, right? How many times or what times do we see these devastating effects even happening to them? Understand that this argument often appeals to individualism, a core value in Western and especially American theology and philosophy. Understand that the reasoning goes, I didn't own slaves, I didn't write slave laws, and I didn't enforce segregation. So why should I feel responsible? Theologians who take this stance argue that assigning guilt to modern white people amounts to collective punishment, which, according to them, they claim contradicts Christian teachings about personal sin and accountability. In this framing, discussions of slavery legacy are seen as moral overreach rather than moral clarity. So that's so much diabolical of thinking. I think this is just looking at a mean point of view. It is so mean, right? I'd say that this is looking at it at a main point of view, honestly. However, critics point out that this argument deliberately confuses guilt with responsibility. Most scholars and theologians who challenge this view are not saying white people today are personally guilty of enslaving Africans. Instead, they argue that people can benefit from unjust systems without creating them. They are benefiting from unjust systems. Okay, they didn't create it, right? But understand, they are benefiting from these unjust systems, right? And that moral responsibility includes acknowledging and addressing the inherited advantages. And so, slavery did not simply disappear. It evolved into Jim Crow. It evolved into redlining. It evolved into discriminatory policing. It evolved into wealth inequality. All of this shaped modern society. Ignoring these continuities allows inequality to persist while absolving beneficiaries of any duty to respond. So, the phrase imaginary guilt is especially controversial because it implies that black suffering and structural consequences of slavery are exaggerated or invented. So critics argue that this language minimizes real, measurable disparities in wealth, in health, education, and political power that trace back to slavery and legal racism. So by labeling guilt as imaginary, the theologian reframes the discomfort of white audiences as the central moral problem, rather than enduring experienced by black communities. So these rhetorical moves shift. This rhetorical move shifts the focus away from justice and towards emotional self-protection. So from a theological standpoint, many Christian thinkers argue that the Bible itself recognizes corporate responsibility, not just individual wrongdoing, right? Scriptural traditions repeatedly address nation, communities, and generations being accountable for repairing harm, even when current members did not initiate it. Understand that repentance in this sense does not mean self-hatred or personal blame. It means truth-telling, repair, and transformation. So critics argue that refusing to engage these idea represent a selective reading of theology designed to preserve comfort rather than pursue reconciliation. Brothers and sisters, also another major criticism is the rejecting responsibility, which often functions as a way to shut down conversations about reparation, policy change, or institutional reform. So if slavery is framed as an ancient history with no modern consequences, then any attempt to address racial inequality can be dismissed as unfair or dismissive, right, or divisive. So in this way, the argument against guilt becomes a political tool and not a moral tool. It allows society to acknowledge slavery abstractly while refusing to confront its living legacy. So brothers and sisters, please let me know what you feel and think about this video. I really find it troublesome. I really find it problematic. But at the end of the day, I think we need to give such conversations. We need to have a talk. We need to remind ourselves. We need to be critical thinkers about all these social issues that are happening. And you might think that it doesn't affect you, but wait until it affects you. So brothers and sisters, as you know, I'm your host and presenter Agentic Stories, but until then, I'm hoping to see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.